خلافتنا بمسرور فتية عظيم شأنها بين البرية.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to another episode of Beacon of Guidance. This series is a compilation of questions and answers given by Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz. These are from various virtual mulaqats from Ahmadiyyas all over the world. Let's start our program with the very first question, where Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz graciously oversees a virtual mulaqat with Ahmadiyya Muslims from Kababir on the 5th of June 2021. Then a member of the audience asked, how should Ahmadiyya Muslims in Kababir mark the centenary of their Jamaat? Let's take a look at what Hazur stated.
बात यह है कि हर दिन कोई आने से या एक मुद्दत पूरी होने से कोई मकसद पूरा नहीं होता. असल चीज़ ये है कि इस 100 साल पूरे होने के लिए आप लोग क्या तैयारी कर रहे हैं. कितने हैं आप में से जिन्होंने इस्लाम की तालीम को अपनाया है. कितने हैं आप में से जो इबादुर रहमान बन गए हैं हकीकी रंग में. कितने हैं आप में से जिनके इबादतों के मयार आला हैं, जो फ़राइज़ के साथ नवाफिल की अदायगी भी करने वाले हैं. कितने हैं आप में से जो मसीह मऊद अलैहिस्सलाम के पैगाम को आगे अपने ख़ानदान में, अपने कबीले में, अपने लोगों में फैलाने की ना सिर्फ ख्वाहिश रखते हैं बल्कि इसके लिए कोशिश भी कर रहे हैं. कितने हैं आप में से जिनके बुनियादी अखलाक पहले से बहुत से बढ़कर बेहतर हो चुके हैं. कितने हैं आप में से जिनके घरों में एक अमन और सुलह और मोहब्बत और प्यार की फ़ज़ा कायम है. कितने हैं आप में से जिन्होंने अपने बच्चों को अहमदियत या हकीकी इस्लाम की तालीम के बारे में आगाह किया है. कितने हैं आप में से जिन्होंने इस बात पे नज़र रखी है कि आपके बच्चे इस्लाम की हकीकी तालीम के मुताबिक परवान चढ़ें. कितने हैं आप में से जिन्होंने इंतज़ाम किया कि आपके बच्चों के लिए इस्लाम की हकीकी तालीम को हासिल करने का इंतज़ाम किया जाए. कितने हैं आप में से जिन्होंने अपने इर्द गिर्द के माहौल में ये असर कायम किया कि ये वो मुसलमान हैं जो हकीकी इस्लाम का नमूना है. बस ये बातें हैं और बहुत सारी बातें. अगर ये आपने कर रहे हैं और कर ली हैं और इन बातों को हासिल करते हुए आप 100 साल में दाखिल हो रहे हैं, तो फिर आप समझें कि आपने अपने 100 साल जुबली बड़ी आला रंग में उसको मनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. और अगर ये नहीं, तो फिर इन 7 सालों में कोशिश करें कि इन बातों को हासिल करें और इसके अलावा भी जो इस्लामी तालीमात हैं उनको हासिल करें. और साथ ये भी कि कितने हैं आप में से जो खिलाफत से हकीकी ताल्लुक़ रखने वाले हैं और अपने अहद जो हैं उनको पूरा करने वाले हैं. बस ये बातें जब आप कर लेंगे और अगर नहीं की तो उसके लिए कोशिश कर लेंगे, तो समझें कि आपने अपनी 100 साल जुबली हकीकी रंग में मनाई है और आप इन 7 सालों में हकीकी रंग में इसको हासिल करने की तैयारी कर रहे हैं.
For our second question, on the following day, a virtual mulaqat with the Lajna members of Kababir Jamaat was held with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz. A member of Lajna posed the following question: what is Hazur's message for Arab ladies?
अरब औरतें हों या गैर अरब औरतें हों, हर अहमदी औरत जो है उसके लिए यही पैगाम है कि एक तो ये है कि अपने नमूने कायम करें जो आपके माहौल में आपको नुमायाँ करने वाले हों. ये पता लगे कि ये अहमदी मुसलमान औरतें हैं जिनके अमल, जिनके अखलाक, जिनका उठना बैठना, जिनकी बातचीत, जिनका माशरे में रहन सहन और ताल्लुक़ इस्लामी तालीम के मुताबिक है. दूसरी सबसे बड़ी अहम बात जो है ये है कि अहमदी औरतों को अपने बच्चों की तरबियत पे, जैसा कि पहले भी मैं कह चुका हूँ, बच्चों की तरबियत की तरफ तवज्जो देनी चाहिए, उनको दीन सिखाना चाहिए और उनके लिए दुआ करनी चाहिए। माँ बाप की दुआएं बच्चों के लिए, बच्चों को लगती हैं, इसलिए अपनी तरबियत के साथ साथ, उनको दीन सिखाने के साथ साथ, उनको दीन से अटैच करने के साथ साथ, उनको खुदा की वहदानियत के जोड़ने के साथ साथ, उनको आला अखलाक इस्लामी तालीम के मुताबिक सिखाने के साथ साथ उनके लिए दुआ करें कि अल्लाह ताला उन्हें हमेशा दीन के साथ जोड़े रखे और कभी वो अपने रास्ते से भटकने वाले ना हों, इहदिना सिरातल मुस्तकीम पे चलने वाले हों, हैं सिरातल मुस्तकीम पे चलने वाले हों। इहदिना सिरातल मुस्तकीम की दुआ उनके लिए करें कि हमेशा वो सिरातल मुस्तकीम पे हों और कभी शैतान के कब्ज़े में ना जाएं, कभी उनके दिल में दीन के बारे में कोई इनकवास पैदा ना हो, कभी उनके दिल में मुआशरे के अमन को बर्बाद करने के बारे में कोई ख्याल पैदा ना हो। बस ये तरबियत है जो एक अहमदी औरत को अपने बच्चों की करनी चाहिए और ये बहुत बड़ा फ़र्ज़ है। अगर अहमदी औरतें इस फ़र्ज़ को अदा कर लें तो फिर हज़रत सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के इस हदीस की भी मिसदाक बन जाएंगी कि जन्नत माँ के पाँव के नीचे है। बस अगर जन्नत में ख़ुद भी जाना है और अपने बच्चों को भी लेके जाना है तो फिर सबसे बड़ी ये चीज़ है कि अपनी अगली नस्लों को संभालें और उनकी आला रंग में तरबियत करें।
For our third question, which is from a virtual mulaqat with a delegation from the Gambia on the 30th of May 2021. Beloved Hazur was asked about which prayers he likes and recites the most. Let's look at what Hazur said.
Which prayer does Huzur like and recite the most?
There are quite a number of prayers which I like. I like the prayer Rabbi Inni Liman Zalta Ilayya Min Khairin Fakir. Oh Allah, whatever the blessing you bestow on me, I am in need of that. So there are quite a number of prayers. Rabbi habli hukman wa likni bi salihin wa jali lisana sidqin fil akhirin. Right? So that Allah Ta'ala give me the wisdom and knowledge, right? And make me to be with those people who are Allah's loved ones, and they are doing good deeds. And then also give strength to my words so that people can understand it. So there are so many prayers, so which I like and recite, and Durood Sharif and Istighfar as well. Istighfar is the main thing which a person should recite, and I also try to give more emphasis on doing Istighfar. So you should also do Istighfar and say Durood. So Allah Ta'ala will save you because of this from the sins, any bad thing which comes into your mind. So if you are doing Istighfar, Allah Ta'ala will save you from it. So you should also do Istighfar. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
For our fourth question, we'll turn to the Gambia again, where Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz, chaired a virtual mulaqat with press and media of the Gambia on the 22nd of May 2021. A member asked Beloved Hazur, how can we purify our hearts and strengthen our faith to have a spiritual connection with Allah?
My question is, how can we purify our hearts and strengthen our faith to have the love and the spiritual connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
The best way is to pray to Allah Ta'ala, that Allah Ta'ala purifies your heart. This is why Allah Ta'ala has asked us to, and even He has shown so many examples in the Holy Quran and given us the prayers in the Holy Quran that you should say, you do istighfar. Istighfar is the best way to purify your heart. Istighfar is the best way to free you from your previous sins and to give you the power to stop committing any sin again. So this is the best way. And then also Allah Ta'ala has asked a true Muslim to offer the 5 daily prayers. So if we are fervently praying in our 5 daily prayers and observing our prayers in the best way, and with full concentration, then we can see that there's a big change in our life. So the best way is to offer 5 daily prayers, seek Allah's guidance, Allah's help to purify your heart, and do istighfar and do Durood Sharif as well, as much as you can. That will also help you to purify your heart and to increase you in your faith and belief.
And now on to our 5th question within this segment. In a virtual mulaqat with Majlis Atfalul Ahmadiyya United Kingdom on the 24th of April 2021, a tifl asked beloved Hazur at a young age, how did Hazur memorize the Holy Quran? Let's take a look at what Hazur said.
Assalamu alaikum, Pyare Hazur. My question is, at our age, how did you memorize the Quran?
You see, during our time, we were studying in Jamaat school in Rabwa. So there was a special Diniyat religious studies period where we were being taught religious knowledge of the Jamaat, and at the same time our teacher will ask to memorize some of the verses or the surah, small surahs of the Holy Quran. So this is how we used to learn, and even in our Atfal classes we were asked to memorize, and there used to be a competition of Tilawat, Hifz Quran. So this is how we used to memorize, and this is the best way. But here we have Hafizun class. Those who can afford to go to the Hafizun class, they should try to learn Quran by joining that class. And those who cannot, then you should develop your own interest in the holy reading of the Holy Quran, memorizing of the Holy Quran. And at least try to memorize last 20-30 surah of the Holy Quran. And also remember that Atfal of the age of 13 and above, and Khudamul Ahmadiyya as well, should also try to memorize first 17 verses of Surah Baqarah, right? And also try to know the meaning of these verses, because it's very important to know the meaning of the verses. This is how you can increase your faith, and you can save yourself from the attacks of the environment and bad people.
For the 6th question of this segment, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz, blessed a virtual mulaqat with Lajna Imaila Indonesia on the 3rd of April 2021. In the mulaqat, Hazur was asked, how can people improve interest in reading the books of the promised Messiah alayhi salam? Let's look at what Hazur said.
Dear Huzur, please kindly give us guidance on how we could improve members' interest in reading books of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam. Jazakallah.
You see, you should try to pick some passages from the books of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, which are related to women and for day-to-day life. So then you increase the interest of the women, and especially those who are well educated and Nasrat, grown-up Nasrat of Mayar Kabir. Then they will develop some interest in it. You see, if you select some book for them to read the whole book, sometimes they may not develop interest in it. But if you just pick the passages on different subjects from different books, then they will develop their interest to read the books. So once they develop the interest, then they will start reading the other books as well.
We'll now move on to the 2nd segment of this program, looking at answers given by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz, to questions received by Ahmadis from around the world. These questions and answers have been taken from the Al-Hakam's Answers to Everyday Issues column. Someone from Canada wrote to Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen, Khalifatul Masih V, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz, that he had once stated that the obligation of sacrifice or Qurbani is only upon those who perform Hajj. He asked, if someone does not go for Hajj but has the means to offer a sacrifice, is it that not obligatory upon him? Hazur Anwar, in his letter dated the 9th of July 2022, provided the following answer to this question.
Regarding the sacrifice on Eid al-Adha, it is important to remember that the Holy Prophet ﷺ would perform the sacrifice annually with great regularity, whether he had performed Hajj or stayed in Medina. At times, he even sent his sacrificial animals to Mecca from Medina with others for the purpose of the sacrifice. Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu ta'ala anha recounts that Allah's Messenger ﷺ had sent his sacrificial animals to Mecca with her father. Similarly, Hazrat Abdullah bin Umar radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Holy Prophet ﷺ stayed in Medina for 10 years and performed the sacrifice every year. Moreover, it was also a sunnah of the Holy Prophet ﷺ to sacrifice more than one animal. Hence, Hazrat Abu Huraira radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu relates that when the Holy Prophet ﷺ wished to perform the sacrifice, he would buy 2 rams that were fat, horned and castrated. He would then slaughter one on behalf of his ummah and the other on his own behalf and on behalf of his household. The Holy Prophet ﷺ also emphasized to his companions the importance of sacrifice on various occasions. For instance, it is narrated by Hazrat Mikhnaf bin Sulaim radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, O people, every household should perform a sacrifice every year. Similarly, it is related by Hazrat Abu Huraira radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu that the Holy Prophet ﷺ declared, whoever despite having the means does not offer a sacrifice should not come near our place of prayer. In addition to this, the Holy Prophet ﷺ also instructed Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu to perform the sacrifice on his behalf every year. In light of these narrations, some Islamic jurists, fuqaha, including Hazrat Abu Hanifa rahimahullah alayhi, have deemed the sacrifice of Eid al-Adha to be obligatory, wajib. Moreover, the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam has also declared sacrifice as obligatory, farz, for those who can afford it. Hence, a gentleman presented a query to the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam as follows. I had allocated a modest sum as my share in an animal sacrifice. However, due to my being Ahmadi, I was excluded from that share. Would it suffice as a sacrifice if I donate that amount to the Miskeen Fund, i.e. a fund set up for the poor in Qadian? In response, the promised Messiah ﷺ stated, a sacrifice is accomplished only by actually partaking in the slaughter of an animal. A donation to the Miskeen Fund does not fulfill the obligation of a sacrifice. If the amount you possess is adequate for the procurement of a goat, then proceed with the sacrifice. However, if the amount is insufficient and you are not granted the means to contribute more, then you are not obliged to make a sacrifice. Thus, for a person who has the means to perform a sacrifice, it becomes obligatory to do so according to their ability. For one who lacks the means, the sacrifice is not obligatory. As for the response regarding the issue of sacrifice given by Hazrat Khalifat al-Masih IV rahimahullah alayhi, to which you referred through a YouTube clip, if you listen attentively to the entire response, it becomes evident that Hazur rahimahullah alayhi emphasizes the following point. In countries where people live in comfort and have abundant access to food throughout the year, offering sacrifices during Eid with the mindset that greater spiritual reward will be earned by personally performing the sacrifice within affluent countries while overlooking the people of impoverished nations contradicts the true spirit of sacrifice. Yes, some sacrifices should be made in prosperous countries as a form of blessing, but the majority should be performed in impoverished countries to include their people in the joys of Eid. This approach aligns perfectly with the true spirit of sacrifice. Thus, in response to the question, is it not necessary in the light of Islamic philosophy for a person who can afford to make a sacrifice to do it himself rather than sending money and asking someone else to perform it? What is the correct way? Hazur Rahimullah alayhi elaborated. As far as the matter of sacrifice is concerned, the sacrifice that is obligatory, farz, is only for pilgrims at the time of Hajj, within the sacred precincts of the Haram. For others, the Holy Quran has not explicitly mentioned the obligation of sacrifice. Therefore, others only perform the Hajj sacrifice with the intent of receiving that spiritual reward. While seeking this reward, one should bear in mind the concept of spiritual reward. Would it make sense to merely slaughter animals by one's own hands at all costs in a society where people are already going crazy from excessive meat consumption and where mad cow disease is prevalent? Conversely, in regions where impoverished Muslims or Africans are dying of hunger, should sacrifice not be performed there just for fear of foregoing the spiritual reward of carrying out the slaughter? In such circumstances, would one gain reward or invite punishment? If someone opts to perform some sacrifices here, in Europe, as a blessing, I am not against it. However, it is better for Muslims in affluent countries to perform sacrifices in their impoverished nations for their brethren who, throughout the year, might not even get meat to eat, except perhaps on the day of sacrifice. For Allah the Almighty states, and it is a verse of the Holy Quran, that neither meat nor blood reaches Allah, it is your piety that reaches Him. Thus, if you perform sacrifice in another country with piety, the piety will indeed reach Allah. The reward is for piety, not for the meat.
And that concludes another episode of Beacon of Guidance. Do join us again when we will look at the questions that have been presented in front of Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen, ayyadahullah ta'ala bi nasrihil aziz, and his faith-inspiring responses. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.